Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first proper FPL BlackBox of 2025. But I have to say, Mark, what a wonderful job you've done holding the fort while I've been off with illnesses and travelling and all that. You enjoyed the solo streams?
I did enjoy it. I did miss you, though, because it was hard just talking non-stop for an hour. I could have done 20 minutes or half an hour, but of course I just waffled on. Yeah, it was good fun actually, but I did miss you lots. And it's like Game Week 17 was the last. I think the build up to Game Week 17 was the last time we did one of these.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think my rank's gone from like 1.1 million over that time to 1 million where I am now.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I've had some green arrows.
Stayed steady.
Yeah, you closed the gap for a bit, didn't you? And then we both come out with reds this week though, but we've improved. Our ranks have gone up since we last did the show.
Yeah, yours has gone up way too much though. Like I'm not happy with, I've gone from like 2 million to 1 million. I'm happy with that. You've gone from 2 million to 200k. That's not fair.
I was 120k before this week. The one just gone, so it was doing even better. But yeah, I've had a good run. And probably without that run, I wouldn't have done those solo streams, maybe.
That's very true. Yeah, very true.
I don't know. We'll see. We've got lots to cover tonight. Going to try and get done under the 2 hours because there's so much to cover and I haven't had dinner yet and you have, so it's unfair.
What have you got tonight?
I've got prawn noodle soup, so it's no roast on a Sunday this time. So
prawn
just a soup.
Noodle soup. What the hell is that?
We like our noodle soups. It's nice. So we had some prawns to kill. So not literally, but
yeah, I was going to say on a tank. That's so Mark Southerns. That is
so middle class, isn't it? That really is. Right. Yes. So we're going to look at, it's called On the Spot because I'm going to look at penalty takers because that really hit us both very hard this week. We'll look at points in a minute from Game Week 20. Going to look at some penalty trends because that was interesting. It kind of urged me to go and look at historical data and how we're tracking this season for penalties so far. It was quite interesting. You'll see it a bit. Mm-hmm. Chip strategies because we're getting close to Game Week 24. And you know what Game Week 24 means?
Yes, man. Woo.
The assistant manager chip, to give it its proper name, becomes active. So we're going to look at overall chip strategies for the first time, bring out our usual table that we have. That's got some strategies in it. And then we're going to look in a bit more detail at assistant manager prices and some work that Meerkat or Charlie did from the community, which was quite interesting. So I've thrown his table in of assistant manager scores as they would have been over the last 5 or 6 game weeks. We'll have a quick look at that. We're going to dip in and out the tables. We're not going to go through every table in tonight's show because otherwise we'll be here for 3 hours. But obviously we'll finish on the predictions, captains and our teams and so on. First of all, we'll look back at the game week though. Let's bring up your points. We'll do this quite quickly. 61 as did all right. Red arrow.
Yeah, I mean, it was all right. I mean, I bought in Vissa, which I was happy with because I know a lot of people going for slightly, less, I don't know, less fun. Would you call Wood and Pedro sort of less fun? I mean, they both ended up doing all right anyway, but I thought Vissa was probably the more exciting option out of the three, and he did all right. Everyone's talking about, quite rough fixtures. I think there's goals for Brentford coming, so he's probably going to be a medium-term hold for me, at least, but... Elsewhere, I mean, Raya in goal, Trent really disappointing, Gabriel, Robinson. I made a last-minute move of Ahmad benched for Lewis Hall because I saw the Spurs sickness bug and all that stuff going around. I was like, they probably won't even score now. And they did, although luckily it was Solanke for me up front. But yeah, that was an annoying one. That cost me 7 points. I hate those like 50-50 last-minute moves you make, which cost you. Salah with the 7, Palmer coming in with 10, nothing too interesting there. Sar's been really crap for me since I bought him in.
How long have you had him?
I've had him for 4 weeks, I think, and he's blanked every time. I bought him in after the Brighton game, so he hasn't got me anything, and he's putting up some decent XG, so hopefully it will turn, but yeah. Finally got an Isak, and then Solanke coming. I mean, it was an all right week. I was on a decent green arrow until the Sunday, and then obviously Ahmad on the bench, Trent blanks, and Forest with a Wood goal and a clean sheet in the worst possible result.
Yes,
for both of our FPL teams, not for your main team.
I continue to not have any Forest players because I'm just absolutely frightened of putting the kibosh on them if I get any of them in. Although with the Jesus injury today, I might have to concede and get Chris Wood soon because I'm running out of strikers I could try other than Chris Wood now. Actually, it's interesting on the Visser thing because not a penalty taker, and that's on tonight's theme. So hold that thought, and I'll come back to you on that. Let's look at my game week 53. So I came out worse than you. A red arrow down to I lost about
finally
80k. Yeah, Fleckham with the clean sheet low. Hey, Trent with 0, Gabriel 2, Munoz disappointing in his second game for me with just 2. Still getting XG, lots of chances still up there, very high on the average positions in that game in game week 20. Luis Diaz, who was my transfer, the big disappointment because I was really expecting Liverpool to tan Manchester United, and they did nothing of the sort.
The propaganda I was listening to last week of you selling Luis Diaz.
Yeah. I like him. I mean, he's effectively Liverpool's number 9, isn't he? In a withdrawn role and drifts around a lot and does come deeper. But, you know, I do like him as an asset. And there was a tweet tonight, because I've obviously got Bruno as the poster boy, saying, is Mark going to just get rid of Diaz after 1 week and go to Bruno? I'm not, although I might do if I have more than one free transfer. I'm going to hold...
You got some issues.
I've got some issues. I've got some fires, so I can't do that. So I'm going to hold Diaz, particularly with, you know, the potential double game week coming up in 24 or 25. It means I've got the 3 Liverpool in already. So I think with that double game week coming up in the matter of 3 or 4 game weeks, it would be remiss to get rid of Diaz because, you know, I can take him into that. I don't think there'll be rotation going into that potential double game week. It depends if it's 24 or 25 because there's an FA Cup weekend before that, and I think that'll be the weekend that Jota and Nunez will play again, and then Diaz will have another couple of games. So I think he's okay to hold. I don't like him this week against Forest, but more on that at the end. He got 1 point. Salah got the customary 7, captain to 14. Gordon got another goal for 7.
He's doing well for you.
Yeah, he was a good signing. Yeah. Palmer got the 10. Jesus, disappointing, just the 2 points, and he was awful and then got injured today. Evan Nilsson, disappointing, just the 2 points. He got injured last week, so I've got casualties up.
Have you had any points from Evan Nilsson?
No, not at all. Yeah, well, I have, but like on the bench. Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
And then Isaac, the 7 points. So only 53. Red arrow back up to 211k. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Do I have the game week review? I do. These were the leading point scorers from the game week, and then Bruno absolutely killed us, didn't he? Absolutely killed us.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm grateful for the Visser points. I thought Brentford were going to win that game comfortably. It's just he has been absolutely on fire, isn't he? And obviously it comes at the time when everyone decided to sell him because there were talks about his positioning and not getting so involved, and he's absolutely.
Well, it's just the fixtures, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to become like a. I mean, he's already at like FPL legend status now because. I mean, 19 points is an absolutely massive haul for any player. But it's not even
this season high.
Not even a one-off, is it? Like he's just getting consistent double-digit returns now. He's an elite FPL pick. So if you kept him all this time,
I will say, right, 0.97 was actually non-penalty in this game week, and that was very high. But with our first random dip into the tables,
which we're not showing
down. No, which we're not showing. He's down in 38 for the season, 0.43. Did you know he's got the highest XG delta or XG non-penalty delta in Europe's top 5 leagues? So in other words, he's the most overperforming player in Europe's top 5 leagues. So that was my reasoning for like, surely he can't keep this up, and he is keeping it up. And spot kicks, as we're going to look at tonight, were behind it. It was a pain, wasn't it? Losing out on those points. I could have. And the thing is, as well, I got Bowen at Southampton with my transfer as the replacement for Saka, and the tactic behind that was, well, it might only be for 1 week. I'm going to target Southampton. I did say in the solo stream, really using that logic, I should move to Mbumo rather than Diaz, but it would have been probably another short-term transfer. Although, you know, arguably you can hold Mbumo now for the duration. I should have done it. I should have done it. And you know, it was weird because obviously there was a lot of speculation about the Liverpool United game being off. And I was sitting there thinking before deadline, shall I just play safe and go Mbumo? And I didn't. I thought, no, I've got to stick to my guns. I was talking a lot about Diaz. I think the game will be on. I'll go Diaz. And then there was that nervousness about will the game be on? There was fantastic stuff going on Twitter. And then when the game was on, I was going, right, okay, Diaz, just get me a return. That's all I do. I don't need to go bad. Don't need to replicate 19 points. Just get me a return because you've got better fixtures to come. And he got 59 minutes. Yeah, got 1 point.
Yeah, I think
so FPL, isn't it?
It's a classic trap though with us doing like these streams. Is that you? I mean, okay, you let everyone down with Dean, but generally speaking, as much as the stick I give you, like when we talk about players and we talk about
Mr. Barco,
I will constantly. At least I got him. At least I put my money where my mouth is. But when you do a stream like you did on Diaz, you talk about the template, you talk about going against the grain. You can't then go for like a player like Mbeumo because he's so boring, isn't he? Like I'm not saying he's not great because he is absolutely fantastic, but he is dull. He's a dull pick. So
I don't know if he's a dull pick. I just think that it's a very analytics pick because he's X-Mins and Pens. Which
dull pick.
Every player who's got X-Mins and Pens rates very highly. But and as I say, he's been hugely overperforming. But arguably now he's become a player like a Son, perhaps, who does overperform his XG by a considerable margin. So, maybe you can't hold that XG argument up as say, well, there'll be regression. I mean, you'd think there would be. He's got a lot of goals this season from his wider position. But, he hasn't let up, has he? And those who sold him got punished, and I was amongst them. So
the antithesis of Ismail Assar, who is posting great stats but not getting anything, and then Mbeumo's the opposite. I mean, we get these players, don't we, every now and then, who the stats are meaningless. I mean, like the Yaya Tourés, the Jesse Lingards, those kind of players, Aaron Ramseys, who just find a way to get points. And we spend all this time looking at tables and everything, but at the end of it, you want the players that get the points in, don't you? And I mean, I don't know where Gordon shows up like on the stats tables, but he's another one who he doesn't always have the best underlying data, does he? But he always finds a way
he's doing all right. He's doing. I'll bring up midfielders last six. He's 9th last six, like 0.60.
Okay,
right?
So he is now getting returns and showing good data as well.
Yeah, and Mbeumo has improved in recently. He's up to 19th, 0.52. So his XGI non-penalty per 90 has taken an upturn in the last 6 game weeks. But Gordon's right up there. Yeah, and I think that Gordon, Isak, and possibly Hall are a good trio to have. The problem, as we're going to see, is going to be game week 29. So tripling up on Newcastle when Newcastle have then gone to Arsenal and won the first leg 2-0 in the Carabao Cup means that Newcastle are very likely to blank in 29. You've got to be very careful now about over-investing in Newcastle if you haven't got an exit plan with transfers to game week 29, unless you're going to free hit. More on that in a bit. But we should stop and say hello to the 560 that are in chat, including Slippers, who says those 19 points were dull. Yes, thank you very much, Slippers.
Mr. Dull himself in the chat. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, dear. Yeah, he's in there. FBL Sandman, FBL Frost, Bryn, Mohit, RKNA, MD, FBL Yellow Army. Thank you, as always, for your support. Mauricino, Zem. Who else we got in here? AL, FBL Salmon I've already mentioned. These are people that have already commented tonight and are in chat. SMB, we've got FBL Zeitgul, Maliki Fox as always. Good to see you, Carl Valencia. Thank you for all your support on a Sunday evening. We're going to try and get done before Adam and Martin get going on above average FBL. They kick off at 9. Let's see if we can send some crowds over to them when we finish. Let's get back to the topic of tonight's show then, which is one of the topics, which is penalties, because Mbeumo did hurt us. And it made me look at penalties so far this season relative to other seasons. And it's quite interesting because, as you see from the graph below, this is not great for the podcast, but basically what we've seen recently, in game week 19, we saw 3 penalties awarded. And then in game week 20, we saw 6. So we've had a sudden spike in penalties. So 9 penalties in the last 2 game weeks. Now, even with that spike of 9 penalties, we've only had 46 penalties so far, and pens per game, 0.23, is at its lowest since 2019-20. In fact, it's lower than that. You've got to go back all the way back to 2017-18. So in other words, before that, the 9 penalties were awarded in the last 2 game weeks, we were tracking well behind in terms of penalties awarded per game. Do you think that's got anything to do with the fact we saw a spike in penalties, or am I being cynical?
I love this because you're in the chat with Luke and Andy and I, and you were saying, I tell you, there's going to be a penalty in this Forest game, like 100%.
There should have been for handball.
There was like two that should have been given clearly, and yeah, I mean, it has felt low. It feels like VAR has changed somewhat this season. I don't know if they're getting less involved or I don't know what they're trying to do, but VAR generally, I feel kind of is working better. It's definitely worked the best so far this season that it's worked since it's been implemented. And I think a part of that is maybe trying to, not study so forensically, penalties. I think sometimes they've gone too far that way and there's been obvious penalty decisions that they haven't given. So I do wonder if they're still trying to find the balance. I mean, this is what always happens with like VAR, isn't it? They can't quite get it like right in the middle. They either go too far and start giving them for everything, or there's obvious penalties which they don't give.
Every season, I say there's always a couple of points in the season where they go, "Oh, let's raise the threshold," and then they go, "Oh, let's lower it a bit." So I'm always watching for this because in previous seasons it's been pretty obvious. If you look at the 2021 season when we had 125 penalties, that was, of course, lockdown period, I believe. Yes, it was lockdown, right? So that was crazy. We were getting 0.33 pens per game. As I say, at the moment, we're tracking the lowest since 2017, 2018, and that is with the 9 that were given in the last 2 game weeks. So you can imagine we were miles behind before that. When I saw the Delap penalty against Chelsea, I thought, that's a bit soft. And then I saw a couple last game where I thought, particularly the Delap one at Fulham was a bit soft, right? So I do wonder whether there's an awareness of we're tracking behind, let's raise the threshold a bit or lower the threshold a bit. Because it's interesting, if you look at the previous spike, we got 7 penalties in game week 13. And then it went straight back down again and then plateaued again for 4 or 5 game weeks. And now it's gone back up again. I don't know. I don't know what awareness the referees have of how they're tracking for the season. They obviously don't want massive outliers. They don't want, oh, Christ, we've now given twice as many penalties than we've ever done before, right? So they must keep an eye on the data. And equally, we do know that they go, right, we know this season they went, well, contact in the box, it's got to be significant enough to warrant the player going down. I do think the last couple of weeks, though, I think that is... they kind of lost sight of that, or they've just lowered it a bit.
Yeah, and or they thought to themselves, okay, we've given less penalties, we are spending less time on decisions, and actually some have slipped through the net that maybe should have been given. So now we're going to spend longer on decisions, and when they spend longer decisions, they've got more time to find a problem. Because if you study the same bit of footage 3 or 4 times, you're going to find fault with it, and in that sense, you might get an increase. So yeah, I don't massively disagree with what you're saying. It was just funny that you had that theory, and then in the very next game, there was a penalty that definitely should have been given, and they didn't, which I still can't quite understand.
According to the graph, we're going to go back down now because when we have a peak, it calms down again. But I mean, that it's all very speculation, isn't it? But I do think like if we'd have done this graph or that table there showing pens per game ahead of game week 19. We'd have shown that we're tracking miles behind, and we would have speculated that, well, are they going to start giving more penalties? And absolutely they did. So it's a shame I didn't do this analysis then. But it's interesting now just to keep an eye on this, and just the fact that we're tracking, 7 or 8 penalties behind where we were last season, and 5 or 6 penalties behind where we were the season before that. So we are still behind. And I do wonder whether, now we should consider just getting more penalty takers in, because it's not something that I've really felt has punished me this season and made me think that I need to go to penalty takers, because obviously it's been a bit low until recently. So what's your take on that in terms, because I looked at my team and thought, oh my God, I've only got like 4 or 5 takers. And then I look at some of the other teams around me, particularly in analytics teams, who have 7, maybe even 8 penalty takers in their teams, right? Because the models all like penalty takers, so they're the ones that obviously the analytics managers are drawn towards, because that's what the models are recommending. And logically, it makes sense. Go for penalty takers who play lots of minutes. In your team, you got Wissa in, right? Is it a consideration? Yep. Do you look at that and think, oh my God, Wissa's not on penalties, I've got Ismail Assar who's not on penalties? Do you look at your team and think,
I've got a lot of players,
so
a lot of penalties.
Are you? Yep. Is there such a thing as, hold on, I've got too many slots in my attacking areas which don't have penalty takers in them? I mean, how many slots is too many?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Vista and Mbumo is. I mean, it's price, isn't it? Price comes into it. I mean, Mbumo's what 7-8 now. Vista's 6-2. Like I still think even without penalties, Vista is very good value at 6.2 million. If I could have Mbumo, then I would. But like my midfield is all right. I mean, I could take out Saab. I'm also looking at players like Gordon. I mean, Gordon's another good example, isn't he? I mean, he is around the same price as Eze and Mbumo, but doesn't have the pens. Well, he does if Isak's not on the pitch. I think he took one today, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he's a bit different to like if you compare like Ahmad to Fernandez. Like I've got Ahmad, not Fernandez. I'm happy to not have the pens because I'm saving like 3 million. Vissa to Mbumo, I'm saving 1.6. Gordon, then he's the one where he's so good at the moment. Are you really going to swap him out for a player just because you might get a penalty in a game?
No,
I mean, the odds on getting a penalty still are against you, right?
They are, but I mean, I've got Jesus and Evan Nilsson injured now. Neither of those two were on penalties, right? So, logically, maybe I shouldn't have had them in the first place. Now I've got to get rid. I'm probably just going to go to penalty takers. There's João Pedro, there's Mateta, there's Delap, there's players I can get. Chris Wood, just go to the penalty takers. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like it that the game drives us towards penalty takers, because then obviously the player pool is like, well, just get 8 penalty takers in your attacking slots. Just do that, because a lot of managers do. Now, it does make logical sense, but it means that we're then going, I can't consider Gordon, I can't consider Ressa, I can't consider Diaz because they're not on penalties. Now, I don't really want to play that game, but am I being... Well, do I say, am I being suboptimal by doing that?
You said it.
Yeah.
I mean, you posted the other day, didn't you, and said you might like to see reduced points for penalties.
Yeah.
I mean, that caused a stir. I mean, some people I think were, agreeing with you. Others weren't. So would it be like 2 or 3 points for a penalty and 4 or 5 for a goal?
Yeah, just blanket 3 points for a penalty, regardless of the player position. Because I mean, imagine we got a Leighton Baines, a penalty taking defender, on 6 points if they get a penalty. So it's, that's going to be your defender. Everyone's going to. That'd be what, 100% effective ownership. It'd be huge, wouldn't it? If there was a penalty taking defender, like a Leighton Baines again, or an Unsworth. I think he took them for a while, didn't he? Then that suddenly we're playing a game where one pick's gone. That's an obvious pick to have.
I mean, what I said earlier about like Ahmad and Fernandez though, like if the pricing's right, then you pay extra for the penalties, right? So
it's a good argument, but look at Gibbs White, who was priced at 6.5, and Wood, who was priced at 6 million, because FBL thought the penalties were on Gibbs White, which I thought was the start of the season as well. So you can't correct that during the season. So suddenly Chris Wood becomes a bargain. Gibbs White's not in anyone's team because of penalties. Well, it's true, isn't it? Because of penalties.
Yeah.
So because you can't correct prices...
I mean, how many penalties has Chris Wood taken this season, though? 1?
He scored 1 at Brighton. So he scored 1 there. I think he's taken 2. I think he's taken 2
penalties, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the
2
average...
in 20 games.
Yeah, but I mean, the average... Yeah, if you look at the average over seasons penalties per team, it's about 4.5 to 5 per team. But obviously you can't predict which teams are going to get the penalties. There could be theories about, well, Crystal Palace have got a lot of tricky players, so therefore Eze gets lots of penalties. I think Mateta's on their penalties, by the way. But anyway, you can't really know which teams are going to get the penalties, but you just get the penalty taker for that team. And in a world where you look at all the teams and all the kind of seasoned managers or analytic managers or content creator influence managers have all got 8 penalty takers, that's a bit rubby. Do we want to play that game? I don't want to play that game. Right? That was my point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a shame when you've got a player like Cliver who scores 3 penalties and he's only getting 9 points for that, instead of 15. Because I mean that is a hat trick of penalties.
Yeah, but he'll get bonus, won't he? He'll get the bonus points as well. That's the other thing. It's like penalty take. Should penalties have the same BPS value as an open play goal as well? Because they do.
No,
right?
They shouldn't. I don't agree with that. You're kind of penalties are a strange one, aren't they? Because obviously there's no assist for players who win one, even if it's not scored. Which that's got a debate. Should they just get a blanket 2 points if they win a penalty, regardless of whether it's scored or not? I mean, the counter argument, you're effectively reducing the number of points, and we all like points at the end of it.
Got a
and it is a
counter
strategy
argument
to
for
pick penalties. Yeah,
got a counter argument for that. No minus points for missed penalties. So if your player misses a penalty, you just don't get the points. You don't lose points. And also, you take penalties out of assists, and you have a point system for winning a penalty. And if your penalty taker also wins the penalty, you get those points as well as the penalty goal. So if Clivert was brought down, he gets the assist, the 3 points for the assist, plus the 3 points for scoring. So by removing the minus points and by adding penalty one as a separate event to an assist, therefore a penalty scorer can also get the assist, you're bridging the gap on the lost points. So that,
I mean, I don't. The thing is, like, I want to like play devil's advocate and argue, and I know a lot of people are kind of up in arms on it, but I don't mind it. Like I mean, there's some people in the chat, saying a goal's a goal, it should be worth the same number of points and all that, but should it? I don't know.
Apparently, the Scottish fantasy game does this. The SPL game does 3 points for a penalty.
I definitely don't like missed the reduced losing points from missed penalty. I think that is such a savage swing when your player misses.
No,
it's horrible.
Big like chance the fact missed as well. And
I know you get absolutely
you're done for. Yeah,
you get crucified. I mean, I don't know. If you've got a player who's on penalties who's a bit of a differential, I think it is a shame if they're not rewarded in the same way. Like say you did get Wood, like you picked up Wood and you were 10% owned, but you knew he was going to take the next penalty because Morgan Gibbs-White missed the last one. It's a shame that you're then getting rewarded less for picking that player, I guess. But it does then stop an over. Yeah.
Like a striker's only getting 4 points for a goal anyway. You're getting 3 points. It's not a massive downgrade, right? So, for a striker, it's a 1 point downgrade, right? That's all it would be. It's a bigger downgrade for the likes of Salah, who's a midfielder who normally would get 5 points for a goal, but that it would make Salah perhaps less dominant in that respect as well. But I mean, they haven't got that many penalties so far this season. But I think the thing is, the problem is, as it is, you could have season breakers. Like João Pedro at the start of this season, when we looked at his price, we thought, oh my God, they've underpriced him because he's on penalties, right? So if you get a shift in the penalty taker to a budget player halfway through the season, that player just becomes an absolute game breaker because suddenly, they're on penalties and they're like 4.5 million or something like that. And, then suddenly you've got a problem, haven't you? It could break the game.
It didn't happen, and he went on like a 7-match run of not scoring, and everyone's kind of stuck with him because they're thinking, but he's going to take the next penalty. And if they're only getting one in every 10 games or however many it is.
But that's because, as I've said, the penalties have been low this year. If it starts picking up again, like I say, if it continues at the rate of the last 2 game weeks where 9 have been given, so 25% of this season's penalties have been given in the last 2 game weeks. So if that continues, then this is my point. It's like, should we now prioritise penalty takers because we expect more penalties to be given? And in that case, then are we silly having the likes of Gordon, Diaz, Wissa, players like that? That's my point. So.
Yeah, I mean, often the penalty takers, and you look at like the main penalty takers in the league, they are the talisman of the club anyway. I mean, you look at Palmer, you look at Saka, you look at Fernandes, look at Isak. Like, you could strip penalties away from them and we're still picking those players.
Exactly.
Anyway, I mean, Saka gives half of them away anyway to various players out of charity. So, I don't think that tempers kind of the investment in him. I guess the question is, like, how much of an issue is it? Like, is it worth... Is it so much of a problem that people are picking penalty takers that's going to drive people to not pick penalty takers if they're getting a few less points for each one scored? I'm not totally sure it would be because we're still going to be picking those players anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But I want to see more points. I want to see more points in terms of the assists being awarded regardless. And I do like the idea of a penalty taker also getting the points for winning the penalty as well. Yeah. But then I don't want that to go to... Because if you add that in as it is, then a player could be earning 9 points for a penalty, and then it just gets absolutely stupid. Yeah. So I do think if you're bringing that in, then it does make sense to reduce the number.
It shows you how crucial the pricing is, and the pricing has been really good the last few seasons, or certainly this season. And it's just, I mean, it's a shame for the Gibbs-White situation because he's performing really well at the moment. Bring up the midfielders again. He's 16th now, right up there, 0.54. But I don't think he's returned in the last 6 game weeks. 3 assists, 3 goals. But because he's not on pens, people are getting Wood, and they're not going to. Well, quite literally, but they're not going to. They're not. You're not going to double up on the Forest attack. I wouldn't recommend it. Right? So Chris Wood has basically killed Gibbs.
We have in sleeper. We got Anderson and Hudson.
Yeah, in a draft game, you would, but not in FPL. So I don't know. It can create scenarios where it can warp the player pool, I think. I mean, I think it's a good discussion point anyway.
Yeah, it is. No, absolutely, and it's the kind of discussion we want, FPL tails to be having. Yeah. If it is going to improve the game. I mean, Semenyo and Clivert is a good example, isn't it? Because no one's picking Clivert like with Semenyo there, but Clivert has got the penalties. So if it works, and they're around the same price. So in that respect, it works. But I mean, these are 5 million-ish.
But if Clivert was a known penalty taker, he wouldn't be priced as he was. So he's only popular now because he's cheaper.
But no one's picking him. If they raise his price because he's a penalty taker, no one's picking him at 5 million anyway. No. Let alone if they raise it to 6.5. People are still going to go for Semenyo.
Yeah. I don't know.
So it isn't just pens, is it? It's also they've also got to have the other ability to score.
It is,
unless you're Milivojevic of a few seasons ago when he was just scoring a penalty every week.
Yeah. When he got 10, didn't he? 10 or 11 or something like that.
Absolutely ridiculous. I bought him in for that. I was like, do you know what? I'll have him for that.
I don't mind. I mean, when it's the lower price, defensive midfielders like Douglas Luiz, for example. Like he wasn't a very popular pick because he's a defensive midfielder, so you need a little bit more. But I think this season, when you look at the penalty takers we have got some cheap penalty takers that makes it too easy to get to 8 penalty takers. Yeah. And you don't want a situation where people go, well, I'm just going to get 8 penalty takers and sit on that. And that'll do, right? So you want to kind of, I don't know. For me, it just makes the game a little bit kind of, I don't know, less appealing in terms of, well, I'm not going to move off João Pedro. Why would I move João Pedro to another player because he's on penalties and he's 5.5 or whatever? And when there's 4 or 5 of those, there's 4 or 5 cheap penalty takers, because obviously they've been priced before knowing the penalty takers, then you've got a problem. Yeah. And that's when it could be an issue. As long as the pricing is good and clubs don't change their penalty takers midway through the season, it's fine. But I do think a penalty taking defender would be a bit of a game breaker. Like if Trent was on penalties, imagine that. But it's game over.
Who was it that we thought was going to take him for? Was it for City? Did we think? We thought Edison was going to take him, didn't we?
Yeah,
for City?
that would be amazing. I mean, the fun factor of that would be great, but it didn't quite happen, did it? But So let's talk about the assistant manager chip, because the prices came out. Like your views on the prices, first of all. There's a blank next to Everton, but of course that's now filled by Mr. David Moyes once again. There you go.
Yeah.
So any comments on this? I see Herzl as 1.1, bit kind, I thought, for him.
I really don't like it, like generally. I saw this come out and my heart kind of just went...
Well, you knew it was coming, so...
I knew it was coming. I think I'd kind of, I don't know... I don't know. It doesn't sit right. We've talked about this. There's no point in going back on it. We've already talked about how we feel about it. I mean, it is annoying that the price of the managers have been set kind of based on how they're doing now rather than generally. I don't know if that's like Howe at 1.5. Like no one's putting Howe at the same price as Arteta at the start of the season. How else you do it? Yeah, I suppose. Herzl at 1.1. You think that's cheap? I think that's... I mean, I look at Amorim at 0.8 and think that's too cheap, isn't it?
Why is Emery 0.8 and Herzl at 1.1? That's a bit strange, I feel. I think, like a Villa in worse form than Brighton?
No, yeah. That's what I mean. I think Herzl's too high. Said that. I don't really understand why Herzl's 1.1.
Yeah.
They're like the same price as Nuno. Like what? It's like they've kind of done it on form, but also not really done it on form.
I don't think it's miles out. That's the only one that stood out for me. I mean,
How and Nuno should be the same, right? If it's done on form, both have won the last 6 or 7 matches. Yeah, both should be like 1.3.
I guess it could be based on fixtures to come as well, maybe.
Yeah,
because Newcastle got the best fixtures or very good fixtures. Yeah. So, are you? I mean, let's have a look at this from. The FPL Meerkat, Charlie, posted this yesterday, which is very interesting, I think. This is basically the assistant manager scores from game week 16 to 20. just to get an idea of the kind of point tallies we're looking at. And obviously it is a big swing. I mean, no one's going to go Van Nistelrooy anyway, but the gap between the bottom and the top is 50 points, right? So it's quite a lot. We're looking at a powerful chip here. I mean, if you're unlucky
over 5 weeks though, over 5 rather than 3.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. What am I talking about? Yeah, so it's not going to be that. It's going to be it's going to be about 30, isn't it? Like from bottom to top.
I think you'll do well to get 30 points out of it. Like that would be a good return from the chip, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and also what's interesting is the dark green cells are where the bigger scores are, where the table bonus has really come in. The table bonus is, of course, if you... I've got to explain this now, and I got myself into this.
Here we go.
The table bonus is when you get an assistant manager whose team who wins a game or draws a game against a team 5 places above them in the league table. So that's where the big scores are at. So the appeal of going for mid-table or lower table assistant managers are they can have fixtures against teams 5 places above, and if they draw or win against them, they get more points. But as you see here from the dark green cells, only 5 instances of big scores over the last 5 game weeks. So it doesn't look like that's going to be easy to find, does it?
And is a big gamble, because in some ways the best tactic might be just to go for, like a Liverpool, or I'd even put Forest in that. I mean, look at the teams who are getting consistent sort of 7 or 8 or something like that. Because look at Amorim United, like an 18 and then 3 zeros. Like that is the kind of team United are at the moment. They're just kind of all or nothing, and that's going to suit some people, and some people will find. And I'm hearing people talking about using it towards the end of the season when like relegation teams are playing, like Wolves or Everton or players like that. But you are risking a crap team just losing 3-0 and then you getting 0 points whatsoever. That's not the strategy that I'm going to use.
Are you not? Are you going to play safe?
I'm going to go for a decent team. Yeah.
Are you?
A Newcastle, a Liverpool. Do I trust Forest enough? Probably, if the fixtures are good. Probably something around that. Maybe United. Maybe by that time, United have started to... There's signs, isn't there? They're starting to get a bit better. So they might be the difficult one. But so, I'm up like Everton, Wolves, Leicester, Southampton. No, not for me.
You're not going there. I mean, you're saying that now, though, but this takes us to the chip strategy, really, because I actually think the assistant manager chip is the crucial one to deciding your entire chip strategy, because the assistant manager chip, once active, means that no other chip can be played.
Yeah, I know.
In 3 game weeks. So you've kind of got to play it very strategically in terms of timing it, right? Now, I've got some chip strategies in this table here, and there are others, right? I actually think the first 2 are probably going to be the most popular ones. This is presuming you've got your chips for the second half of the season. You've still got triple captain. It's presuming you haven't, randomly, accidentally played your bench boost. Or not many people. Only idiots do that. But
or your triple captain on Haaland in against bottom of the league.
Yeah. So basically, I think where I'm looking to play the assistant manager chip is at the end of the season. Now, in strategy 2 here, I've got it 35, 36, which is a double game week and a big double game week, and 37. I think it's fair to say that we're going to play it with the double game week in it, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. It makes sense, doesn't it, to leave it to that point, I think. Or if you haven't got it in a double game week, if you haven't got a triple captain in a double game week, to use it then. Because I think that's when it changes a bit, doesn't it? Like if we get a good looking Liverpool double game week, then that makes that chip much more attractive, I think, to use on a top team. Unless you're going with this, if you're thinking about using the strategy of using a kind of a relegation team, like surely you would rather use it on a top team with 2 games, because that could be worth, that's not really actually be worth that's like 40, 50 points potentially if they win both those games. we know that Salah will have Everton in a double game week either in 24 or 25, right? So Salah will have Bournemouth away and Everton away in 24, or if it's in 25, he will have Wolves at home and Everton away. Yeah.
Right? So if it falls in 25, you don't need to know any more than that. You're going to triple captain Salah there, aren't you? against Wolves and Everton.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Some of us haven't got the triple captain, Mark, so it's not.
Okay,
you know,
yeah, okay.
We haven't got to worry about that.
Right.
If you have got the triple captain, it is interesting, just like you say, because you're locking yourself in if you're using it early to then not be able to use it, you know, in the next couple of weeks. So I think it does it because it's a chip that actually affects the ability to use other chips. It's definitely the most planning we've got to do with a chip. I think in and amongst all the wild cards and free hits and all that, like, you have to be sure that if you're using it, you're not going to want to even wild card, right? You can't even wild card if you've used it.
So I mean, this is why it could be dangerous holding it to like 31 or holding it to 35 because you can't wildcard in any of those game weeks. Also, if you want to use transfers and move your assistant manager around, you won't want to be making player transfers during that as well. So that's why the level of planning involved is quite high here, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, you've got that blank game week in 34, so you know you're coming into 35. That's when we're going to see lots of people wildcarding. But then you're going to want to. Then you'd have to play the triple captain, the assistant manager in 36, because that's the only way you'd then get the 3 game weeks out of it, right?
That's another strategy. Yes, you can move it to 36, but then you're trying to get predictions for game week 38, which is why I haven't done that because I think game week 38 is a very tough one to predict. But maybe that plays into your favour if you're going for a really wild assistant manager. It's going to catch people out.
People are either going to leave the assistant manager too late and not get the full 3 game weeks out of it, or they're going to not be able to wildcard or something because they've used it in 36 and then it gets to 37. They go, oh shit, my free hit. I haven't used my free hit yet. I can't use it now because of the assistant manager. There's another reason why, again, it doesn't suit a casual type player because you're going to get someone who uses the chip in 36, then wants to play the next chip in 37 and can't, and then like, oh, screw it then.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, personally, I'm going to use it at the end of the season. I'm probably going to do a variant of strategy too, which would be triple captain in 24 or 25, depending on where the double game week drops, because we think that Liverpool-Everton game will be rescheduled for one of those 2 weeks. I'm probably then going to try and wildcard in 30. So leave a gap between the wildcard and the bench boost. Bench boost in the double game week in 33, and then use the assistant manager 35, 36, 37 with the free hit for the blank in 34. That's probably what I'm going to do.
So now, I'm doing the opposite of that.
Are you? Right.
Well, I think I'm going to use mine in 24 because, like I said, I haven't got... You're going to use your
assistant manager there, are you?
Well, I think so, yeah. I'm going to use it when Liverpool have got that double game week, I think, because I haven't got the triple captain, so I won't be able to use it on Salah, and it gets it kind of out of the way, you know. Would I use a transfer to swap a manager over to another team? I mean, maybe. I mean, you know, if you're talking about, I'm getting some stick in the chat of how risk averse I'm shouting. I don't mind it for I mean, I don't mind it for like a 1 week, but you want to get point. It's a bit of a dangerous chip because you don't want to come away from it with 0 points, and you could do like you don't get that risk. I mean, you could. I mean, to be fair, I've played a free hit before and actually ended up with worse a negative loss. On it, but generally speaking, your free hit, you're going to get points. Your wild card, you're going to get points. Your triple captain, your bench boost, you'll kind of guarantee points. Whereas with this, you're not. If your team loses three in a row, and obviously the risk of that is massively increased if you're picking a team which has been crap for 25 weeks over the season. I just think it's better to use it on a decent side and bank the points.
So you're going to get
boring, aren't I?
You're going to get slot in at 25 if the double game week's there and just hold in for 3 fixtures, are you?
I think so.
Let me bring up the ticker because I've got a ticker here to see what that will give you. So 25, you'll have the double game week, Wolves and Everton. Then you'll take slot to City away, Newcastle at home. That's tough fixtures to come, right? After the double game week. They could lose to City and Newcastle. So
true. I mean, you could swap it in 26. I mean, potentially to Man U, for example, but then it's Everton, Ipswich. They're not going to be above them, are they? So So if you're going to switch it, you need to switch it to a team who is playing teams above them.
Yeah. I mean, that's the strategy. That's why I think I'm going to want transfers to move it around, because I'm hearing a lot about people targeting certain teams to move their assistant manager to based on that team. But what about targeting an opponent? Like if we get at the end of the season and Forest are in absolute freefall, right? I obviously don't want this, but it could happen, right? One team that's currently in the top 5 or 6 now could do,
Yeah.
could the wheels could come off with loads of injuries, and suddenly this top 5 team are just dropping.
Villa and Forest stand out
so
as
if that
being
happens,
possible.
you're going to target that opponent and go to the assistant manager who's playing that opponent. And that could happen, right? So I'd rather leave it to the end of the season in case that scenario emerges, because if Forest say Forest, like, we've booked our European place, we're in the Champions League and we're fine, and we've got, Crystal Palace, Leicester and West Ham, we could be putting out, we could be rotating for those games because it's done. We've got it's not likely, but it could happen. And, if you get the Crystal Palace assistant manager, the Leicester assistant manager and West Ham assistant manager, you could be quids in there if Forest just give up for the end of the season. So I think that scenario could happen. Equally, a team in the relegation zone could just go gangbusters, and then you'll just go with them. Sitting here right now, also the other thing is the pricing has been done to what it is now, whereas, by game week 33, 34, that pricing could look really silly and not be appropriate, and then you've got an exploit. So that's another reason to hold it. I just think there's those reasons, and for me personally, I've got 3 Liverpool, I've got my triple captain. It makes sense that I'm not going to sell a Liverpool player just to get slot in, so I'll play my triple captain. So I've got reasons why I'm going to leave it till later.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this fixture tick. I mean, the perfect team here, really, like going by that logic, would be West Ham in 35, right? Because they play Spurs, Man United, and Forest.
Yeah.
Teams that are going to be above them. Potter's going to have had a bit of time. Bowen's going to be back by then. Bowen's not out for the season, is he? They have him back. So I mean, you could. I guess the thing with Liverpool is, even though they've got City and Newcastle, they're still going to score goals, and you get points for goals as well. So it's very, very, very unlikely that they're going to not score and lose those games. Let me remind
myself of, because I know I've got a.
They get a point for every goal, right?
I thought it was just clean sheets. Let me have a look.
No, they get for goals.
Goal score, 1 point per goal. You're absolutely right. I'd forgotten that.
And a clean sheet, 2 points as well. So, they're arguably the best defence in the league, and they're the team that scores the most goals.
Yeah.
A couple of clean sheets and a win. And
City and Newcastle, there's not clean sheets there, is there? And there could be
there could be one. There could be one.
Yeah,
could be. But there will be goals, and there will probably be at least a win.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. It's not exciting. It's not a fun way to play. But I think if you use it on slot, in any 3-week period, you're guaranteeing yourself probably like 10 to 15 points.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're using it on a worse team, worse with the marks, you're potentially getting 30, 35, but you're at risk of getting 0.
Yeah, but I mean, I think a valid strategy would be go for a solid team with the first week, a solid team for the second week, and have a gamble in mind for the third week.
Yeah.
And you do that gamble if you've done well in the first 2 weeks, right? So
yeah,
that'd be.
I don't hate that at all. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. But I guess the issue with that is that you're then using a transfer on a bloody manager rather than potentially targeting a player with good fixtures.
This is it. I think
if Mbeumo gets another 19 and your manager only gets like 10, then it's.
I think this is why. I mean, I want to go into playing the sorry, I can't call it that. The assistant manager chip with some transfers in my bank, right? Because I think that's the best way of having the opportunity to exploit it. If you go in going, oh, don't really want to use a transfer, so I'll just hold the assistant manager I've got. You're not giving yourself the full power of the chip.
Yeah.
I think,
and I'm really trying not to be too negative. And this is the last thing I'll say, but I think again, it's the issue with the chip is that suddenly you're not picking individual players who you think are going to do well. You're having to have football knowledge. You're having to work out, when a team is going to be rotated and when a team's going to, and all this, and use a footballing brain to try and tactically decide when to use it. I just think that's,
It's a good game. I mean, it would be a good game in itself, just to pick assistant managers all season.
I'm looking at it and personally, I'm thinking it's actually quite interesting because we're talking about strategy and all this. It's just not right for FPL as a game. But like you say, it's actually quite a fun little side game. And I really like the charts like Meerkat is doing, where you're saying, okay, well, if you'd picked this player and got 15, and then you'd like switch to this player and got another 20, then you're looking at 50 points like for the chip. So there's going to be someone who absolutely smashes it and gets like all 3 right from a team who plays a team 5 places above them and ends up with 60
What
points.
do you
And then that
think-
is a hell of a swing.
What do you think if the FBL title, the FBL crown, is won by someone with the assistant manager chip in the final game week? What do you think about that?
Well, it will be. I think it is obviously going to influence who wins FPL this season, this chip.
Yes.
Regardless, because you could get someone, like I said, who gets it right and shoots up from obscurity up to the top. If it happened on the final week, what would be a shame is if it happened, like I said, where the person in second leaves it too late and only gets 2 weeks out of it instead of 3, and then doesn't get the final point, something like that, or they can't play their wild card because they've used it, they've left it too late. I'm not saying that's going to happen because I imagine they're engaged, but I mean it could do. I guess at the end of it though, it's just another. Chips are just luck, aren't they? And that's why so many people don't like them, because they add so much extra.
Right? Say someone at the top is 20 points ahead, and the player in second goes, I'm going to go the Southampton manager, final day, home to Arsenal, and Southampton freakishly win 4-1 or something, or 4-0.
Yeah.
And they get 20 points for a 4-1 win or 4-0 win for Southampton against Arsenal, and they win the FBL crown off the basis of that.
I guess
because
it's no
obviously, because they made that choice to go to the Southampton manager because they knew they had a gap to make up. Therefore, they would never have done that normally if they'd played the Assman. Sorry, I'm doing it all the time. The assistant manager any other time. But because it gives you a more powerful last hurrah, doesn't it? A Hail Mary that we didn't have before, is what I'm saying.
I've been watching all the new WWE stuff on Netflix, and when Billy Gunn comes out, his ass man entrance music, and I'm like, I'm an ass man. I'm like, now I can't hear that without thinking of FPL. It's weird. Yeah, I mean, it's no different though, is it, to someone putting a Hail Mary on I don't know, Tyler Dibbling last day of the season, and Dibbling happens to score a hat trick against
I suppose not.
It's kind of the same levels of luck, isn't it? I think people aren't happy with it because it's a kind of a new concept. It's been introduced halfway through the season, and like I said, it requires football knowledge rather than just individual player picking. So in that sense, it would be annoying, but generally speaking, if someone does a Hail Mary on the last day of the season, it's another way of someone just coming out of the blue, isn't it, and nicking the crown.
And maybe that's a cool thing. Maybe that's really good.
In some ways, I quite like it. Like mini leagues will be decided by this chip, and in some ways, I think that's quite cool because you've got a chance. It's not great if you're first and someone nicks it, but if you're third and you get it right, then obviously it's.
But again, that's another reason. Like if Arsenal are in the Champions League final, they're going to rotate in game week 38.
Yeah.
Now we don't know that sitting here now. But if that does happen, people are going to go, oh, why didn't I save my assistant managership to the end of the season? Because Arsenal are rotating.
I think Arsenal could play, I don't know, and still beat Southampton on the final day of the season. I'm not worried too much
bad example,
about that.
but you know the principle I'm saying, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are probably right. Yeah. I mean, it's a bad example, but you know what I mean? I think this is another reason why I think I want to save it. And the other reason why I want to save it is I'll let you and the others go first and see how you get on, because then it's a test case, isn't it? Out of the way, right? We'll see. We'll get some points won, and we'll get FBL managers using it, and then you get to go, oh, who won that then? How did they do it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like, well, let them be the guinea pigs, and I'll play it later. That's another reason why.
But again, that's why I think looking at these charts and these graphs by people like Meerkat, you're kind of effectively doing that already, because you can see what the kind of optimal plays are until you actually use it in 24. And there is going to be a lot of luck. But I was quite keen on using it on Amorim, and then I saw that chart and saw those 2 zeros back to back, and think, oh, that would be a bloody disaster if you picked him and got 2 zeros. He's not even one of the cheap. Well, I mean, he's kind of mid-range, isn't he? But he's not exactly like a 0.5. You've paid a little bit more, and you're picking a team which has got quite a big element of risk because of how Man United are this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating chip that's going to need a lot more planning, and I am definitely going to let some managers go first, and I either play it, if we go back to chip strategy, I'm either going to leave it to 31 or I'm going to play it in 35 or 36 at the end of the season, I think. And yeah, triple captain in the double that's to come, because I've got 3 Liverpool now. It makes no sense but not to hold them. because that means I can't get slot, which basically means I'm not going to pay the assistant manager chip. So, but for you, without the triple captain, you've only got what, 2 Liverpool? Have you got Trent and Salah?
Trent and Salah,
yeah. So you're set up to do it. So
that's what I mean. Slot's quite an easy pick. Would I be moving my team around to pick slot? Probably not. I probably would just go for someone else and then try and risk it. But yeah, the way my personal team is set up, it makes sense, I think.
Okay, absolutely. We're going to go straight to predictions, I think, because what we'll do, we'll go into some tables when we're talking about our teams at the end, I think. And then that way we'll finish in time for Adam and Martin doing above average. Let's look at the standings. We're doing all right. We're climbing the table. We're closing the gap on Hot Iron, who was really running away with it before. So
Hot
I'm
Iron's
still
dropped.
ahead, but just he has.
Yeah, Hot Iron's dropped. He was top by loads. For anyone wondering, this is the Patreon prediction league. Obviously, if you want to get involved in this, pretty a bit late now to win it. But if you want to get involved, become a Patreon, and then you can see kind of all the standings. We got Hesmo now at the top, 158 correct scores. You get 3 for a correct result and 1 for a correct outcome. 51% outcome, but look at that, 14% correct scores, which is obviously by far the most. 4 points in it between you and I, but pretty much bang on.
Still,
yeah, pretty much bang on. I've caught up. I was really. Remember when we had to extend the table because I was so far down. I've had a decent-ish run.
I've got to shrink this table down to get Azzy. Let's look at this week's then. Right, I haven't seen your scores actually. I just grabbed this and didn't really take note of your scores. Oh, we've got some different ones. Definitely different.
Finally. Wow.
Okay, interesting. This will be a crucial week then.
Oh my God, we've gone way different. This is so different to what we normally.
Brentford, Man City. That's going to kick us off on Tuesday. It's obviously a 6 o'clock deadline for 7:30 kickoff. All the games live this week as well, so it's difficult. I couldn't pick one game as a Garden Centre game. I had to go. There's a time and a day for the Garden Centre visit. Brentford, Man City. It's not Tuesday night. I think Tuesday night would be okay. I've gone 2-1 City. You've gone 2-1 Brentford. Talk about that. You've got Wissa, so are you a bit biased?
Yeah, definitely. Of course I'm. I just don't think City are that good. Still, I saw them against Leicester. I think they were lucky to escape from that game with what looked like a pretty solid win. I think Leicester had good chances.
West Ham had a lot of chances.
This is it. I know. I haven't been impressed with them still. I mean, obviously a massive win for them in the cup against Salford, but they're not going to play a lot of those players that played in that game. So how much can you even judge it? They've got new signings who I think they're looking to make and to come in. But Brentford, Brentford at home. I mean, the trouble with Man City is when teams dominate midfield and push and press and punish them. Brentford are arguably one of the best teams in the league for doing that. I think this is a really, really tough game for City, and I wouldn't be surprised if they lost.
Chelsea, Bournemouth, you've gone 2-1 Chelsea. I've gone 1-1. I mean, Chelsea are just in a dip at the moment. I can see why you'd think. I mean, Bournemouth haven't travelled well at times this season, but I do think they're a high press and they're a very good side, and I just think they can get a point here. And I haven't seen, Chelsea. They drew at Palace, didn't they, as well? They're suddenly struggling to score goals. Jackson will be back in the side though, and you'd think that he could become key again. Not a fancy asset I'm looking at yet. Not on penalties, of course. But you think they're going to win then? You're going to win out. Are you looking at Palmer captain possibly then?
Possibly, yeah. The only reason I did have it as a 1-1, then I thought it's a big loss to lose Evan Nilsson, like your kind of main striker, and then you've got your backup striker lined up, and then he gets injured as well. He's out for the season, and I'm only laughing because it's a bloody unlucky situation. They've had to recall Jefferson from loan. They've got to completely reshape the attack, and it's a good time to play him, I think, in kind of the first Premier League game, when they've had these two quite significant injuries. So I think Chelsea will have enough firepower wise to get back on track.
Okay. West Ham, Fulham. You've gone 2-1 Fulham. I've gone 2-1 West Ham.
Look at that.
You're not believing in Potter here then?
I do believe in Potter. I think he's a perfect appointment for them. I think it's a good match. I think it's a good club for him because he'll be able to mould some of the youngsters. He'll be backed. He'll get the fans on side because he'll get them definitely playing a more attractive brand of football than they've seen over the last couple of managers. And I think he'll get the most out of some of the creative players they've got in the side. So I do really like it, but it's going to take time. Fulham are good. Fulham are just they're already there. They're already where West Ham want to be under Potter, and I think they're a better side.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first home game under Potter, the crowd will be there. They've got injuries, of course. I mean, I think Fulkrug picked up an injury as well now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's been a disaster, isn't it?
They'll have to play Danny Ings up top.
Danny Ings up top.
That might be a happy accident, though. I mean, Ings could be reborn. I mean, he's still got goals in him, and I think Potter will know how to play to his strengths. I just fancy West Ham here, manager bounce and all that. I've gone 2-1. This is the big one, of course, Tuesday night.
Title
top versus
game.
Third. Well, yes. I mean, if Forest win, we have to say there's a title. We're in the title hunt, I guess. But I don't think Forest will win.
I've
gone
win
2-1. Yes, we could. You've gone 1-0. I've gone 2-1. It's going to be tough for Liverpool, isn't it, to get the 3 points here, I think.
Just lost to Spurs. Who loses to Spurs these days? Tamworth nearly beat them, for God's sake. This was a really hard one to predict. I mean, you beat them at Anfield. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do it again at the City Ground. I just don't think you will. I think that City game kind of threw me a little bit. You know, like you were so... I don't know what the word is. You just like City was so there for the taking, and you just didn't even really try. I just wonder against like top sides like this if you're going to be a bit. What's the word I'm looking for? A bit scared, maybe, to go for
too
it.
much
and I think
respect.
Yeah, too much respect. I think if you do that against Liverpool, they'll win this one. But arguably, you know, you could say at Anfield there was no respect, and you won it. So
yeah, I don't think we'll do that at the City Ground, though. I don't think we'll show too much respect to a team at the City Ground. I think away from home, we've done that at the Emirates and we've done it at the Etihad. I think we will push them. It's really tough to know this. I can see Liverpool just nicking it at the end. Which, could work.
I think this is what I mean. I think it's 1-0 either way. I've gone for Liverpool, but I would not be surprised if Forest won 1. I think they've. Yeah, I hate to say it, but you are a fantastic side this season.
Yeah, bit of a machine. Nuno's just worked incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. I mean, the defence is rock solid.
Jesus Christ, what a signing he's been.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
He's been fantastic.
Where did he come? Where was he from?
Fiorentina. He was their captain. We got him for 12 million, which is just crazy.
12 million from Lenkovic. He's just such a beast, isn't he? Like he just
just
so
settled,
hard to play
he?
against.
He's settled. I mean, he hasn't got a lot of pace, but you can't really tell because he just coasts through games. So very rarely is he found out. So yeah, he's just obviously dominant in the air as well. It'd be interesting to see how low our low block will be in this game. I mean, there's no doubt we can cause some problems on the counter, particularly in wide areas. And we've got Alanga and Hudson-Odoi. They'll both be on the pitch because I think we'll play 4 at the back. So I think it could be really, really interesting. I'm gutted I can't go because obviously it's midweek. So yeah, but 2-1 to Liverpool. I think you're going 1-0. Everton Villa. You've gone 2-0 Villa. I've gone 1-1. A difference again. Talk us through this. You just don't fancy Everton. You don't think Moyes
You're really
in his
going for
first
these,
game
like,
back. Yeah,
you're really going for these new manager bounces, aren't you?
It's a thing, isn't it? I'm not going mad. I'm not saying Everton win, but
sometimes I just look at fixtures and I think, who's the better team? And it's Villa. And I think, okay, they're going to win it then. Like sometimes I look at Everton and I just they could get something. I just like I was sad when Dyche got sacked because. Like, okay, the brand of football was terrible, and I understand that Everton fans were getting, frustrated with it, but they had a net spend of like 40 million, like in positive. Like, they're the only team to have to be making more money than they've spent on players. The squad is, let's face it, is really crap. Like, there's all you can really do with that team is get them solid and just try and nick a 1-0, and that's what he did. Like, Moyes isn't going to come in and suddenly make this like a free-flowing attacking team. Firstly, that's not his style anyway, and B, he hasn't got the players to do that. And Villa just have so much about them, with players like Bailey and Watkins and Rodgers.
They got Duran back, of course, as well now for this game. I think.
I just think they're going to have too much for them.
Fair enough. Leicester Palace. I've gone 2-2. You've gone 2-1 to Palace. Again, you're going with the principle of the better team wins.
Yeah.
Wild theory.
Who'd have thought?
No, I get it. I just think Leicester are scoring goals. I think they'll look at this as a game they need to get something from if they're going to aspire to staying up, and I think that they will battle to get a point. We're agreeing on the outcome of the next
tough
one.
game to call because Palace still aren't really. They're just not really there, are they? Like we keep expecting this sudden lift for them to start winning games, and they're kind of. I don't know. They're not. I mean, they don't lose. I don't think they've lost in 6 or 7. They obviously they lost badly to Arsenal, but I take that game out. I think it's 6 games. They haven't lost.
Yeah.
But there's games in that where you expect them to win, they haven't. So yeah, you could be right.
Newcastle Wolves, we agree on the outcome. You've gone 2-0, I've gone 3-1. I do think Pereira will get a tune out of Wolves, and I think Kuna is back for this game. So that make a big difference. I'm really interested to see Kuna under Pereira. I think that I quite like going back to him. I don't mind.
I want him as well.
I don't think many will want to go back to him, and I don't know whether he'll. I do, and I don't know whether he'll hold the penalties because Wang's back in the side now, and Sarabia's back in the side as well. But I imagine Kuna will hold them because he did a decent job and he's the talisman. And you're not going to say to Kuna, "No, I'm taking it." I wouldn't have thought. So I would have thought he would hold them. So it may be a bit early to go back to Kuna because the fixtures, if we take a look, are not.
They are horrendous,
but then they're good again.
They are, yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, I'm tempted to look at him for Arsenal and Villa at home, if you can rotate him, because I think then after that you've got a great run. So I do like him, and we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to our teams. But yeah, I think they'll score. Newcastle defensively are very, very strong at the moment. If we go to the defence last 6, Newcastle second over the last 6 now, 0.72 XG non-penalty per 90. So if you haven't got Lewis Hall, he's certainly worth having a look at. Newcastle defensively strong and up front as well, very, very strong as well in attack. If we pick up the last
8 in a
attack.
row in all
second in
competitions,
attack.
Newcastle.
Yeah, there we go. The team data doesn't lie. 2.47 XG non-penalty per 90 as well. I think I think you'd have to back Isak to score again as well, wouldn't you? Because he's just a machine at the moment. This was tougher than I thought it was going to be. Arsenal Spurs. What was your thinking going into that? You've gone 2-0, I've gone 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, I put this prediction before I watched the game today, and I thought Arsenal were really, I don't know. There's take Saka out of that team, and they are ordinary, aren't they? Obviously, Jesus going off injured when he's been in such good form. Havertz missing chance after chance after chance.
He
then a
looks
penalty.
so low on confidence, doesn't he?
I know, and so does they've got quite a few players who look low. Odegaard looks low. Sterling looks low. Havertz looks low.
I thought Sterling was good off the pitch when he came on. He made a difference, I think. So he was about the only one I thought was off the bench. I mean, he was the only one I thought. Well, no, because I've gone to him before in fantasy terms, so he is an inconsistent.
Trossard, Martinelli, sure. I don't know. They're all kind of in and out, aren't they? None of them are really putting together a run of. Jesus was the only one who was putting on a consistent, good set of games. But I mean, Spurs are just. They're just a bit of a joke, aren't they? I cannot believe they got that win against Liverpool. I just was not expecting. I was listening to the radio before the game, and there was a guy on there from a Spurs podcast, and he was just like, "We are going to get thrashed. We've got absolutely no chance. I've given up with this season." Blah blah blah. He was so down, and then they go and put in a good performance and get the win. And Bergvall lucky, to not be sent off and then to score the goal. That was a bloody weird sequence. I'll tell you who is coming out of things really well. My maligned man, I think Solanke has been brilliant the last couple of games. The way he's leading the line, and now he's starting to get a few more goals, and obviously instrumental in the first goal today for them in the big FA Cup game against non-league. So he could be the difference, but at home, Arsenal to win.
It's going to be not a spectacular. I just think Arsenal are a bit turgid, aren't they, at the moment? That's what I would describe them.
I think that's exactly. It's a game where you look at it and you think this should be an epic.
I don't think it will be.
No.
Neither team confident right now. Ipswich Brighton, you've gone.
This is a disgrace
Brighton.
From you.
I think Ipswich will beat you. I absolutely. Think
is that because you're getting Delap in?
Yes. But I do honestly think that Ipswich, they've just signed Philogene. I don't know how long Hutchinson is out for, but if they've got Hutchinson and Philogene out wide, they've suddenly got threats out wide as well as Delap, who's been really impressive. And I think Brighton are for the taking. I really do. I don't think you're looking great. You're looking very beatable at the moment, I would say. So I think Thursday night under the lights, they can turn you over there.
See, I don't really necessarily agree. I think we're looking decent, but lacking threat. Like we're playing. I think we're playing well in the games I've seen against Brentford, against Arsenal, against other teams. We're just struggling to break teams down, which is why I've gone for like a low-scoring game. Pedro, I'd be surprised if Pedro played, given that he's had this scan. I know things have come back all right, but as Luke said in the chat, like you don't have a scan unless you think there might be something a bit more serious. So is he going to come back straight away? I think he might miss out, but Rutter scored a brace.
Yeah.
And Ciso played well. We've got options. I mean, I went to the game. I went to the Brighton Ipswich game, the reverse fixture, and it was a terrible game.
They played well against you, though, didn't they?
It was a terrible game. They played well. No one was expecting them to get a clean sheet. It got 0-0, and Delap should have scored. Should have won on the game.
Yeah,
he was a real threat on the counter. We'll learn from that. I think we'll win this one.
Okay. And then Man United, Southampton, we both agree on the outcome and the result. We've gone 2-0. And to be fair, it could be more than that, couldn't it? So perhaps we're being a bit conservative there. United do look like they've turned the corner. And obviously today's result, as well as the Liverpool Anfield performance, could really be a massive thing for them.
The trouble is they're putting in good performances against top sides because they're countering and they're dropping against games when they want to exercise a bit of control, like this game. Have they got the players and the ability to be able to do what Amorim wants?
Yes, that could be a possibility, but Southampton just make mistakes, don't they? That's the thing. And I didn't see Brentford winning 5-0 at Southampton.
No,
I just couldn't see that coming. One of the worst away teams, Brentford, against Southampton, who I thought with the new manager was suddenly a bit more resolute. Got that completely wrong, and they absolutely capitulated. Southampton fans were leaving after 25 minutes or something ridiculous.
God, I know. But I mean, this is why we've gone for a 2-0 United, right? Because we think they're going to win it fairly comfortably, but have they got the ability to get 4-5?
Amorim said he's going to rest, didn't he? He said after the Arsenal game tonight, he said, the players need rest. I need to look at that for Southampton. So who's he
going to rest? He hasn't got any...
Don't know. But it gives you the heebie-jeebies a bit, doesn't it? I mean... Because let me talk about Bruno, because he is the poster boy. And I've got Diaz, and I know for a fact that the algorithms will be pushing Bruno like mad now because of this run. Southampton, Brighton, Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home. Fantastic run of fixtures. 3 of them at home. All winnable games. United are just breeding confidence now after the Anfield result and the penalty win at Arsenal. Where do you stand on Bruno? Because if we look at the last 6 for midfielders, he's up to 18th in the table, 0.52. If we go back to the season data, he's a lot lower, down in 31st, 0.47. So his XGI has gone up a little bit. A lot of movement will be going Bruno's way, for sure. Now, if I didn't have fires elsewhere, I would be considering going Diaz to Bruno. But what's your thoughts on going Bruno now for this run?
I just don't know why you wouldn't get Ahmad. I mean, there's not much in it. I mean, Ahmad's in 27th, 0.45.
Yeah.
Fernandes is 0.52. I know Fernandes has got penalties, but when I watch United play, Ahmad's the one who looks the most likely to get something. So you're saving 3 million, over 3 million. No, just under 3 million, sorry. I just think he's a better pick. And I'm going to be completely wrong because Bruno is going to go on a run and score back-to-back penalty things, but I just prefer Ahmad. From when I watch Man U play, he is to me the more involved player in the final bit of the getting of goals. So I'm still going to back him.
Yeah, and I guess Ahmad didn't start today against Arsenal, came off the bench, so he's probably one of the more certain starters against Southampton.
I think Amorim did say he had like a knock in training or something, which is why he wasn't fit to start.
Yeah. But he looked lively enough when he came on. So you'd think you'd back him to be one of the players that will start against Southampton. Surely Bruno's not going to get a rest. He can't rest Bruno, can he? So you're okay. No. But then, a weakened United team against Southampton. I'd be surprised if he weakens it too much because he can't take them for granted. You just never know.
Dallow's suspended, isn't he? Is he going to miss? Is he going to miss the game?
No, because doesn't the yellow card just stay in the FA Cup, the red card stay in the FA Cup.
So they can serve a suspension from the league in the cup, but they can't serve a
I think that's the
suspension
way it
in
is.
the league.
Let's have a look if he's flagged. Let's have a look at the Premier League and flagged him because I
think you're right. I think I've heard this before and been a bit like that's a bit weird because you like Kuna obviously got the ban, didn't he?
He's not
serve
flagged,
one of them in the
therefore,
cup, so he can play.
Yeah,
I just don't know who they. I mean, they could bring in Garnacho, but I mean, he started. I mean, he can't be one of the players that's. He can't be one of the players that's like tired because he's the first
I
game
imagine
about 3 weeks.
Zirkzee going to start up front for Højlund, for example. So that's an easy one to pick, I would say. But I don't know. I just think generally that's why I've gone 2-0 to United because I do think that they need to rest players and they'll win this. But will they rout them? Probably not. Hopefully not. As someone who's going to go in without Bruno, that's for sure. Bruno's even a consideration for the captaincy. He's in our table for the Southampton home game. But let's talk about where the captaincy is likely to go. I don't think. Well, for me, I'm discounting Salah. Obviously Salah could score. Salah could return. I just don't see Liverpool scoring more than a couple of goals. I just don't. I think they're going to win the game, but I don't see us. I mean, we've conceded 3 at home to Newcastle. They played very well against us, and Liverpool could do that to us. So it could, in a 3-goal game, Salah could warrant the captaincy. In a 2-goal game, he could. But I think they've got, other sources of goals. So I just think the alternatives, particularly Isak at home to Wolves, is the one that's crying out to me. Where do you stand on this?
I mean, you look at those stats of Salah over the season, you think, why on earth are we considering anyone else? Shots in the box, touches in the box, XGI, and on penalty behind him, and he's top of all these metrics. And I was talking about this with Sam on the Q&A. I just think, I'm not having a great season. I'm 1 million in the world. I'm probably going to captain Salah 75-80% of games this season, but I've got to find some game weeks where I roll the dice a little bit and accept that he's going to be like 150% EO, but hope that a player with a better fixture can hit a big haul and he can stay a bit quiet. And I think exactly like you said, I think there are players this week in Palmer, in Isak, in Fernandes and Diallo who can do that. So I'll definitely be rolling the dice. I haven't fully decided who it's going to be, but it definitely won't be Salah.
Yeah, I just think we'll show the attacking data again. Newcastle's attacking data is second to Liverpool over the last 6. Which, again, promotes them against Wolves. The Wolves' defence, though, to be fair, is 5th for XGI conceded non-penalty per 90, 1.17. But they have got injuries back there, and then against Forest, they didn't have enough centre-backs because I think Doherty had to play right centre-back. They have made a new signing. I don't know if he's going to go straight in, but even if he does go straight in, that's his debut at Newcastle. Really, really tough ask against probably the best striker in Europe right now in Isak. So I still think that
is he definitely fit, Isak? Because he's had a bit of an issue, isn't he, over the last week?
How do you read
assuming
that?
he's fine.
Well, I read that as I want to rest him, and therefore I'm putting an excuse out now just in case we get turned over in the cup, which wasn't likely against Bromley. But when you want to rest a player, you don't want to show disrespect to the opponent, do you? And say, well, I'm going to rest Isak. You're going to, you almost want to come out with.
I mean, that could be what Hertzler's doing with Pedro.
It could be, but it'll be more elaborate because Pedro's backed him up, hasn't he? And also, Pedro wasn't at the game. Why was he at home when the team were playing if he wasn't? A bit odd, isn't it? But maybe he's playing a set of own games. But does he need to do that for Ipswich? Maybe he does. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd
be more worried if it wasn't Eddie. If it wasn't Howe, I'd be more worried. He is a known shitter, isn't he, with this kind of stuff? There's no other way to put it. He's an absolute nightmare in terms of knocks and niggles and things like that. I think Isak is going to be fine.
I mean, Palmer is a very persuasive second option as well, isn't he? Because it's a home game. But the only thing that puts me off there is Chelsea's recent form. They've gone down to 6th on the attacking data last 6. They were 1st or 2nd for a good while. I think over the season they are. Yeah, they're 2nd. 1.90 XG non-penalty per 90 over the season. That's declined to 1.50 over the last 6. So they've had that dip seen in that data. And what puts me off is Bournemouth, because if you look at their defensive data, they're pretty strong. They're sixth for defensive data over the last 6. So they're no mugs. I do think that they'll put up a significant barrier. I mean, the Evan Nilsson injury, the Unau injury as well means that Semenyo may well play down the middle, or Utara will play down the middle. I would have thought it would be Semenyo, but I don't think that affects them defensively.
No.
It might affect the press maybe, but I think Semenyo in that team regularly knows what to do. He can play that role, and they've got wide players who can come in. Utara and Cliver, I imagine, will play the wider roles. I don't think that the injuries will affect them defensively, so I think they'll put up a good show at Stamford Bridge, which makes me think that.
I think with Isak, you've got the hat trick, haven't you? You've got the player.
2-1
Yeah. I mean, with Isak, you've got the player in form, you've got the team in form, and you've got the fixture. With Chelsea Bournemouth, you've got the player in Palmer. We know what he's capable of. You haven't really got the fixture because Bournemouth are pretty good, and the team aren't in form.
No. Plus, Wolves are a factor, aren't they?
Yeah, which is why I think my vice will probably be on Ahmad, because I think in that you've got a team that's been boosted with a couple of decent results. You've got a player in form, and you've got the worst opposition in the league. So I'd be surprised if I'm tempted by Palmer, but I'd be surprised if I did end up there. I think it's between Isak and Ahmad for me.
Here is your team. You've gone Isak at the moment, and Palmer's your vice right now, but you're thinking of changing that. Then
it could be. Yeah, I don't really know. It could be. It could be any of them. It could be any of the three. I've got. I'll just read out my team. It's Raya in goal with Trent, Gabriel, and Hall. Salah, Palmer, and then my 5 million midfielders in Sarr, Ahmad, and Rodgers. How I've ended up with 5 million midfielders, I don't really know. And then Isak and Visser up top, and my mate Solanke, who's actually been doing all right for me on the bench.
You've only got 3 penalty takers. Very suboptimal. That is
very suboptimal. Look at my bench though, with Solanke, Robinson, and Davis. This is accidental bench boost territory, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if we had a Fabianski in goal, I think there'd be some bench boosters this week, right?
Yeah.
Are you happy with that then? What is your transfer bankable? You're just gonna?
Yeah, I think I'm banking the transfer. I mean, my biggest fear is Gordon. He's just getting points in every game, isn't he? So I mean, I could do like Sarr to Gordon, maybe, but I mean it's a good fixture with Leicester. Just Sarr is a bit annoying. I've got the money to do Sarr to Gordon if I wanted to, which is tempting, but I'll probably roll.
Just on Davis, by the way, something I noticed in the defender data, which I'm going to bring up. You look at defenders over the season. Davis is 7th, 0.21 XG on penalty. Last 6, down in 45th.
Yeah.
So
his role's changed. I think he's
massive decline.
He's definitely not getting forward as much as he was earlier in the season. You can see it from the highlights. He's just not as involved in the attacks. His name just comes up less, and that's obviously borne out by the data you just showed.
And presumably they've signed Philogene to be on one flank and Hutchinson on the other, unless they're going to pay Hutchinson a 10. Don't know. We'll have to see. But there's a chance that will restrict Davis as well, because he's often just bombed down that left side. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Philogene plays on the right though normally, so I don't know how they do that. Hutchinson does as well, so it's a bit odd. Maybe Hutchinson is out for long term, and that's why they've signed Philogene. But that'll be better for Davis. But yeah, just a heads up there. If you're still carrying Davis, that might be a transfer you need to make very soon. Let's bring up my team, because I've got problems, like you said earlier. Flecken in goal, playing Trent at the moment. This is the wrong team. Just realised that's completely wrong, isn't it?
You've still got Bowen, surely.
Let me find my team. Hold on.
You just replaced the one Bowen, the 2 Bowen flags in Timber and Bowen with 2 new flags in Jesus and
because that
Nilsson.
should be the right time. Oh, there it is. Right, okay. I just didn't remove the team. There you go. Right, there we go. Bring that down a bit. Oh, I replaced that. Obviously didn't.
How you've still got
Flecken?
200k.
Even this version's got Flecken in goal, so there's nothing I can do about that. Let's bring the arrow up. So it's Flecken in goal, Trent, Gabriel, Munoz, Hall, Diaz, Gordon, Palmer, Salah, Jesus and Isak. Obviously this was before the Jesus injury. So Jesus is now crocked as well. Yep. So that will probably bring my replacement for Evan Nilsson off the bench. So I plan currently to go Delap. Let's have a look at forwards. last 6. So the options are João Pedro's got a knock, so we don't think he's going to turn up at Ipswich. So that would be the obvious replacement. I can't get to Wood unless I sold Jesus as well, so I'd have to take a hit. Now, as it stands, I'm probably going to sell Evan Nilsson first and then Jesus next. So I'll sell Evan Nilsson going into this game week and then Jesus going into the next. And fortunately, hopefully, Jesus won't drop in that time. I can absorb a drop anyway because I got 2 price gains off him anyway, so it's not a major problem. Whereas I need to get rid of Evan Nilsson because if he drops, I'm losing money. So it'll probably be Evan Nilsson out. I just like Delap. Last 6, he's 15th in this table, 0.38. He's top 10 for chances created and accuracy and conversion. I think looking at the fixtures that Ipswich have got, 3 home games in 4. And yes, Man City at home is not ideal, but that's his former club. I think he's going to be well and truly up for that. So I think in the 3 home games, Brighton at home, City at home and Southampton at home, Delap's going to be useful for me. I'm not going to play him in Liverpool away because I can just, I've got enough on my bench. I can play Rodgers at home to West Ham. And then obviously I'm going to move Jesus out, possibly to Kuna. Or I go Jesus to Chris Wood and get Chris Wood for the Forest Southampton game, which is probably what I'm going to have to do because I can't turn down Chris Wood at home to Southampton.
I know.
And that's he's going to get injured, be out for the season and ruin Forest season. And our Champions League campaign is going to go through the floor, isn't it? The minute I get Chris Wood, that's the danger.
I'm dreading that game. Because I'm not going to have him, I don't think, for Southampton at home. I'm just hat-trick's locked in. Like
I don't know. I don't think we thrash Southampton.
Unless you buy him.
But it does look as though that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Evan Nilsson to Delap, and then I bring Delap in for Jesus, bench Jesus. I will keep Diaz because I do think that Liverpool's fixtures, if we go back to the ticker, are pretty good, let's face it. I mean, they go to Forest, but then after that it's Brentford, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Wolves, even City away. I mean, that's not really a red fixture, is it? I mean, Liverpool can absolutely score at City. The Liverpool's fixtures are very, very good. Obviously, they're going to have a double in either 24 or 25, so I've got the 3 Liverpool already. So it would be folly, I think, to move him out. Obviously, the move to Bruno, if I didn't have injuries, is something I would consider much more seriously. But with the injuries to Jesus and Evan Nilsson, it's golden rule, isn't it? It's black box rule. You just fix your problems, right? Fix your problems. Yeah. Don't be fancy with your thinking like I already have been getting Diaz in the first place. But it makes absolute sense just to fix Evan Nilsson and Jesus and keep Diaz. Now, there could be some rotation. But I do think, having watched Jota and Nunes in the FA Cup game against Accrington Stanley, Diaz has got that shirt. He's ahead of Jota, in my opinion. So I don't worry too much about that.
I've just got to hope. I mean, you're benching Rodgers and Timber, both look good. You've got Jesus and Evan Nilsson. You've got Diaz, who's a risk. You've got Flecken in goal. You're playing 4 at the back. I've got to start clawing some points back on you in our fifth season of doing this. If I'm going to get close to that 3-2 win, because it's about 60 points between us.
Yeah, 62 points. Yeah.
Ugh, yeah.
We didn't bring the great and the good up actually, but I'll just check. I'm pretty sure
hopefully this week. Hopefully this week I need to bring some points back.
62 points.
62 points
to 12.90. Yeah. A lot of red arrows in the great and the good, by the way.
Yeah. Bloody! I was on a decent green until that Forest game.
Well, that's Chris Wood for you. Don't worry though, I'm going to fix that by getting him in, and then that'll be the end of it. So, God, I do apologise in advance if I do get Chris Wood. And Timber got a knock, did he today? Some chat about that. I didn't see that.
No, we did. Okay. Oh God, another injury for you. That's good.
To be honest, he was on the sell list very soon anyway to get some money because I'm looking at the fixtures thinking I don't know when I'm going to play him with Munoz and Hall because they've got good fixtures and I'm not going to play 4 at the back very often. So. Yeah, if that is the case, I'll warrant that as well. Bit unlucky with injuries at the moment, aren't I? Maybe the tide is turning against me. I don't know. We've got some super chats. So let's go back to the start.
And if you've got the sleeper,
I have. Yes, bring that up. Do you want to talk about that before we go?
Just quickly mention that. So this. Just before we finish, this stream is obviously sponsored by Sleeper, as it is every time this season. If you like predicting results and outcomes, obviously I mentioned the Patreon league, but also we've got the Pick'em game where you can win prizes based on your picks for every month in the end of the season. We just sent we're going to be sending a great prize out, Mark. I'll give you 100 guesses, and you wouldn't guess what December's winner has requested
for 500 quid.
Yeah,
Nintendo Switch.
No, you can, as we've said, you can pick whatever you want. We've given away a PlayStation, a laptop, a camera. He has requested a wardrobe from IKEA.
No, no way.
So that
Who is this? Who is this person?
December's.
That's absolutely brilliant. I
Isn't
love it.
That is December's prize. So, like I said, if you want to get involved, you can have £500 to put towards whatever you want. Whether that's a games console or something to fit your bedroom from IKEA. I mean, so scan the QR code on the screen if you haven't already. Helping support the channel as well, or check the link in the description to get involved in Pick'em for the Premier League. And there's also a Champions League Pick'em game as well that you can get involved in too. All links in the description.
Southampton could do with a wardrobe playing up front.
No.
Target man. New Swedish signing from IKEA.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Love that.
I thought you'd enjoy that.
Yeah, very, very good. Let's bring the super chats up. Let's first go to David James Whiteway. Thank you very much for the super chat, David. He says, think chips will be wasted due to the Assman chip. Yeah, that's what you said. That was your point, wasn't it, earlier in the show, when you said that people will leave it too late and not realise that they can't then play chips when they play the assistant manager chip. So there is a danger of that. Absolutely, we said earlier. I think I think that's one of the good things it's done as well, though. It has made us rethink the more traditional kind of fixed strategy with the double game weeks and the chips, because it's another one that you want to kind of use a double game weeks for. So it is going to lead to varied strategies towards the end of the season. So that is a big plus.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. And like you said, locking in 3 game weeks in a row does definitely make you change the way you plan and think. So yeah, that's what I mean for like the engaged manager. I think that is a real positive. But obviously for the casual, maybe less so.
Nathan Wollaston, thank you very much for your super chat. He's saying 10 points less from next season. Praying hands, game's broken. Yeah, I don't think it's broken. I just think it's worth looking at. And let me just do a very quick poll before we finish, just to see on whether we should. Okay, yeah, you do that. Well, the last super chat is from Matthias Elkstrom. Thank you very much, Matthias, for your super chat. Did wildcard change? 1 free transfer wildcard makes it 2 free transfers next game week. Yeah, you can't. Is that the case? No, I don't think so. I think the wildcard uses up your free transfer, I believe. Isn't that the case, Az?
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I was just doing the poll.
So the wildcard, if you can't roll transfers for a wildcard, or can you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
you can now. Right. Yeah. Okay. So it has changed, Matthias.
Yeah, and the free hit. You can.
That's right.
You can do
we
did earlier in the season, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can roll them through now.
And then Simon, thank you very much, Simon. Previously Nigel the Crab. Hello, chaps. I only have Salah. Am I mental? No, I don't think you are, because there's a lot of conjecture about Trent. What do you make of all that, the Trent situation? I mean, there's some say. I was in a debate online with FBL Harry about whether he'll start this week. I mean, where do you stand on Trent?
I think everything that happened between the games is perfect for him. They lose to Spurs, and Bradley does all right, but doesn't exactly set the world on fire. And then he comes in, puts in a good performance in the FA Cup. I would be amazed if he didn't start. I still think he's a key part of what Slot's trying to do. Who's had a couple of bad games. I don't think he's going to suddenly put him on the naughty step because of it. So I expect him to start. Will Bradley get the odd game? Potentially. I think the Brentford game is a big game. The Forest game is a big game for Trent, given the magnitude of the match. And if he puts in another stinker in that, then I think we might see more from Bradley. But for Forest, I'd say he's safe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Bradley played against Forest, and Hudson-Odoi caused him problems. So I don't necessarily think that's a massive upgrade in this game defensively, because I think Hudson-Odoi will cause Bradley problems too again. And I just think
wouldn't buy him.
Trent. No, I wouldn't buy him.
I wouldn't buy him now.
No, you hold him, but you wouldn't buy it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm playing him for sure. So, but I don't think there's anything wrong with just having the one Liverpool, because it gives you the option of the slot assistant manager. So, I think that's a good thing to have that flexibility. FBL Sponge, thank you very much, Mr. Sponge. Wooder Mateta, head says former, but heart latter. I think for the Southampton game, you want Wood. But I think that Palace have got better fixtures in the long term. So if you're going this week, I would go Mateta. Because I think that obviously Palace will score goals at Leicester. I think they'll score goals in the next 3 even. So I prefer Mateta. I think he's on penalties for Palace. There's not a lot in it price-wise. Obviously, if you're moving in 22, then Wood's got the better fixture in 22. But if you're moving now, I'd go Mateta. What do you think? Just the Wood is an inevitable thing.
I think it's clear what FPL Sponge says. Head says former, heart says latter. I think Mateta hasn't pulled up too many trees this season. I think he's been quite poor generally. And, that kind of is a bit what Palace are. If you're backing him and you're backing Palace to improve with the good fixtures they've got, then yeah, I think he's an absolutely brilliant option. But you just know what you're getting with Wood. I can't see him. I can't see him slowing down. He's got a team that's just built to create him chances, and he's just incredibly effective and in great form.
Not a lot in it with the data, is there?
Forest are just a much better side than Palace are. I'd pick Wood, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you very much, Mr. Sponge, for your super chat.
I am boring tonight. I've said all the.
You are. I mean, you're never going to catch me if you're going with those things. But that's fine. That's absolutely fine by me. Thank you very much for the. I think we're on 9:50 now. We had over 1,000 earlier. Thank you very much for all your support on a Sunday evening. We have gone a bit quicker. And we've ended a bit earlier because I need to have my dinner.
Above average is delayed though. So
are they really?
Yeah, till 4:15.
Dear.
So we're all right.
No, we're almost there. It's like 7 or 8 minutes, but we've gone through all the super chats now, so we could waffle for 7 or 8 minutes. But I think we'll call it a day and encourage you to go and join Above Average after this show and say hi from us. As any closing thoughts on the game week before we go?
No, I've put the link to Above Average in the chat, so do check those out. The poll results are 50-50, as I thought they would be.
Are they? Are they really?
Slightly more in favour of keeping it as it is rather than changing things, which is always going to be the way. I think when it's 50-50, it's probably a sign it could be changed, to be honest, because people are generally reticent for change. Any closing words? No, not really. Good to be back. Be good to be doing a bit of content again this week, and
we're going to do a walk. Not a walkabout. We're going to do a watch along, aren't we? We could do a walkabout.
Yeah, Wednesday, right?
Bloody cold out there. Yeah, for the Wednesday game, I was going to do the Ipswich Brighton game because I thought that'd be fun to do because I've got Delap and you're a Brighton fan, but you can't make Thursday. But the games on Wednesday are a lot better. So yeah, I guess we'll be there for Arsenal Spurs, right? We'll have that game.
Yeah, that'll be like we said. But that should be an entertaining one. It's probably going to be rancid, but hopefully we can inject a bit of excitement into it.
Yeah. So watch out for the tweet for the time of that show, but we'll obviously be live by 8 o'clock, if not before. We'll have some data, but we won't update all the data for the game week then. But we'll just talk through the game and any talking points and what we're up to in the transfers and what we've got planned for obviously game week 22, which will be upon us very, very soon. The deadline for that being 11 o'clock on Saturday. So we'll preview that week, game week as well, in that show. Right, we can't talk for another 6 minutes, but please go and see Above Average and say hi from us. It's good to have you back, Az. I've missed you. So yeah, hopefully now we can go to the end of the season and you can maybe close the gap. But
I need to. This week, maybe I will go for a little cheeky Ahmad captain. I've been talking so boring. Maybe it's time to
Is it
roll
a smoke screen? Smoke screen for the most maverick captain pick.
Salah captain, just to to really rub it in. Yeah. That's been good. Good to be back. Like I said, I did enjoy your solo streams, but it's nice to be back. So yeah, watch along on Wednesday and then back to normal for the rest of the season, hopefully.
Indeed. It's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone.